This is Ryan from Cincy Life Community News. It's the 17th of June, 2015, and this issue with this Rachel Dolezal is interesting to me. It relates to things I've been talking about for years, and I believe, and I don't mean to make fun of this, so I'm going to keep this very serious. Sorry if that's not entertaining for you. Go watch the mainstream media if you have to. But this whole thing with Rachel Dolezal claiming that she's a black woman to rise to, a leadership position in the NAACP, to get college education at a predominantly black university like Howard, and that after she's established herself as a black woman, she's made multiple claims that people have been very racist against her, sending nooses to her, putting nooses on her lawn, robbing her house, leaving a noose behind. I think there's been 8 incidences of people leaving a noose for her. It's kind of untypical. It doesn't happen a lot these days, unless it does and nobody reports it, but it doesn't seem to be a very common thing. But for her, it seems to be something that reoccurs over and over and over. And it seems to be a way for her to garner attention. So in the way that it relates to me is, that I've been talking about Münchausen Syndrome by proxy. And another incident of Münchausen Syndrome by proxy with Rachel is that I believe she is using this report of abuse of her brother against one of her other adopted siblings. She's saying that her biological brother, molested or abused one of her adopted siblings when the sibling was very young. And the motive, they're saying, is so that she can adopt this brother of hers, this Israel, who is black, and she wants to perpetrate this facade of her being a mother to a black child, another one, apparently, and that she's also claiming that she has a black father, which her father is certainly not black, and he's went on the news to say as much. This is him right here, and anyway, it's just interesting. I've been talking about Münchausen by proxy. I'm going to go ahead and put a link here at the bottom in the description for that. And I've been, for myself and for others who are offended by this, she's claiming to be black in order to rise to some sort of a position of power in, the NAACP and whatever, or at least a position of leadership. And to fight for civil rights, she had to become black. For me, I've fought for a long time against racism, and I've done it as a white man. White people have their own struggle, but certainly I've fought for the cause of minorities that have went through hell in this country as well, the drug war and other things that I've posted about for years, and I didn't need to become black to do that. And I didn't need to change my identity to do that. I am who I am, and I've got the tattoos, the anti-racist tattoos, and I've got the history of it behind me. And it just offends people who work hard for legitimate purposes to combat civil rights violations or racism, and then her to use it as sort of a trophy, like, hey, I've become black, and look what all I've achieved because I've become black, or because I'm transracial, as she says. There is a lot of interesting developments in this, but I'm going to post a couple of my recent videos about the feigned abuse of people that I know close to me who have done the same thing, where after they've established some sort of premise or some sort of a motivation, they continuously claim abuse, like she did, saying 8 times somebody put a noose on her porch or sent it to her mail, or somebody sent pictures of hate in her mailbox. And it's just strange, and the police are not convinced, and they haven't done anything to pursue it. And now her family is saying, oh yeah, this is what she does or whatever. But I think that, and I'm going to post another video, check the description for this. I also think this is another reason why lie detection technology, like I've been talking about for years, is good for people who want to, defend themselves against false claims like she's been claiming, and there's no doubt in anybody's mind. Like I say, I'm not going to try to make light of this. I'm not going to try to you make this a humorous thing, but she's claimed over and over and over abuse, abuse by her brother, abuse, and not even of her. I think this is Münchausen Syndrome by proxy, where she gets sympathy by claiming abuse of somebody else, close to her. And I think that's a mother thing typically, but in this case, it's a sister thing. And I've also experienced that with a sister of mine. Many other people have experienced that with her as well. But it seems interesting to me how, people can use lies to hurt other people. And even if there's no charges, criminal charges pursued in this, maybe this Joshua Dolezal will not even be convicted or whatever. And I'm sure that's probably going to be the case after all of this. But, for at least a while, his reputation is going to be defamed. People close to him are going to worry about him, being close to them. And, he's going to have difficult times and obstacles in the future that would not otherwise apply to him if this hadn't been an issue that she had made. So, beyond just the transracial thing, I think this claim of abuse that she constantly claims, over and over, oh, people are abusing me because I'm black. She's not even black, but it's about Munchausen syndrome. It's about claiming harm in order to feign attention. And that's, a common thing. I think it's getting more and more common as as days go on and as our country experiences more of these strange issues. I think more and more people are finding that it's easy to, gain attention by making up false claims, and it's sad. And so that's my point here. So check out these videos about Rachel Dolezal. I'm just going to put a few of them on here just to illustrate my point. And this IJR review or IJ review website that I wanted to express part of this, I'll leave a link for as well, so you can check the history, or you can check the description, or you can go to this link right here, and I'll post this link on the video as well.
Well, she says she is scared, but not backing down. Tonight, a Spokane civil rights leader vows to keep fighting despite what she calls hateful messages and racist letters. On Wednesday, Spokane NAACP President Rachel Dolezal says that 20 pages of hate mail were delivered to the organization's P.O. box in North Spokane with her name on it. And KXY4's Alex LaFreeze working for you. He joins us now live from that post office. Alex, this isn't the first time she has reported something like this.
Well, Nadine, to understand why this rattles Rachel Dolezal so much, you first have to know her history. More on that in a minute, but first to this case. On Wednesday, Dolezal was grabbing her mail from this post office here on North Monroe when she noticed a large envelope with no return address. She says she'll never forget what she found inside. Today, Rachel Dolezal was giving another speech on human rights and equality, trying to forget the mail she received last week.
I immediately was struck by pictures of guns pointed towards me, the viewer, and no more hesitation in writing, and also pictures of lynchings, pictures of me speaking at the Martin Luther King rally.
The images continued for nearly 20 pages.
A picture of a grid of black male faces that were used as target practice in a Florida police shooting, practice shooting.
It's not the first time she claims to have been a target of racial discrimination. In 2008, while working at the Human Rights Institute in Coeur d'Alene, she says white supremacists harassed her. The harassment continued when she moved across the state line.
The incident that followed our move shortly after arriving was one of the worst incidents.
In 2009, she says thieves broke into her home in Spokane.
$13,000 of property stolen in that burglary, and a noose was left on the porch.
Despite filing police reports, no cases were ever brought to prosecutors in either Spokane County or North Idaho.
That is a bit unsettling to me that those things have gone unsolved.
Dolezal says that while she fears for her and her kids' safety, she won't let these acts of hate slow her down.
I'm committed to living my life and not hiding in fear. So I'll continue to fight for justice.
Spokane police say they're taking this matter very seriously and have handed it over to major crimes detectives. Reporting in North Spokane, Alex LaFreeze, KXLY4 News.
And this goes to prove my point that crazy people aren't stupid. I mean, she's very articulate. She's educated. She has, the attention of the media, and she gives a great interview. Is she crazy? I mean, if all of this stuff is false, like her identity, then yes, I would say so.
Male.
There have been other hate crimes committed against you and your family that have not resulted in an arrest. Do you think that the police department is trying hard enough to get to the bottom of who's terrorizing you?
I'm not sure, and when it comes to the formality of deciding what a hate crime is, I've really tried to let the police make that decision. So in the case of the male, I called Crime Check, not 911, and described what happened, and they said, this is a hate crime, we're dispatching an officer to you to pick up the evidence. And the situation, one of the situations in North Idaho where my two sons were out in the garden and saw a noose hanging from the rafters, or what looked like a noose of rope that hadn't been there prior. The officers came and they actually listed that as a hate crime toward me and my sons at that particular point. And so,
And this is where Münchausen by proxy comes in. When you're claiming abuse of yourself, that may be Münchausen Syndrome, but this Münchausen by proxy apparently is defined by when you're claiming abuse of another person, or when you're feigning an injury for another person to garner attention for yourself. That right there is Münchausen by proxy. Honestly, I've seen it a lot in my life, just in family issues, and I honestly think it's a condition that's more prevalent than people give it credit for. Most people haven't heard of Münchausen syndrome. Very interesting.
I really don't want to speculate on what, which particular incidents have been hate crimes and by who, because certainly there's been no conclusion in any of these incidents that have resulted in a suspect, and that is highly frustrating. It's been a stretch of years, and certainly no small amount of stress for my kids as well as myself. So I would love to live in a world where hate crimes didn't exist, and I could assure my children that we're safe and nothing will happen in the future.
I guess.
See, again with the children thing. Oh, what about the children? I can't even assure them that they're safe in this world. Who knows what's going to happen next? She's put her kids through hell just to feign this abuse that has never really happened, apparently, or at least doesn't appear to have. That's Münchausen by proxy.
With regard to the noose on the rafters, that turned out not to be a noose later on.
I don't know that that's been concluded.
It's actually a rope that was used to hang up a fellow's deer whenever he killed deer.
Well, I read that in your article, but that was never told to me at the time. And in fact, when we moved into that particular house, that rope was not there. My sons discovered it that morning when they were picking strawberries in the little raised beds. So, people will go to all kind of lengths to minimize or discount or undermine stories. I certainly don't believe that there's conclusive evidence that was not put there, to intimidate or harass, and that certainly wasn't the first appearance of a noose at a residence that we lived at. So
that was one of 8 times that you had problems. You were victims of a hate crime in North Idaho.
Again, whether I don't know that it's 8 hate crimes decided by the police, but there were 8 incidents where we were harassed. Yes.
Sorry.
See, this is what's amazing to me is when people have unique situations happen to them, one form of abuse or another, and it happens to them over and 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 over. And, they report it to the police or whatever. They get their 15 minutes of fame. They get their attention. But is there actually abuse going on? People that have that over and over and over and over and over and over, and I don't know, it just seems to me to be a little far-fetched. I think this is why people started getting suspicious, and that's why they went to her parents to ask them about what's going on.
You were the first to notice, hey, there's no canceled stamps on this envelope that was up in the P.O. box, there's no barcode, you kind of knew right off the bat that this probably didn't come through the mail. And so when you hear it comes down, they've kind of exonerated the postal employees that put it in there, and now it's kind of like a key holder thing. If somebody said, if it's a key holder and there's only a couple of people have the keys, maybe one of the key holders did it.
Well, again, I don't have any reason to believe that. And I actually wasn't the first person to notice that. One of my friends who came over to the house to kind of be supportive right after I received the mail, I posted something on Facebook, like, you know, don't know what everybody else got in their mail today, but I'm really shaken up by this particular package. And some of my friends said, we want to come over. And so one of my friends, Tanya, came over, and at that point, when the officer arrived, he was looking at it, and she's like, that doesn't have a stamp on it. In fact, you know, if you look at it, there's no barcode, and so she's the one that first noticed that, but certainly it was noticed prior to the investigation.
Yeah, see, this is interesting too, where she goes to social media, she garners her support, she gets her sympathy, she brings friends over, gets them involved. They notice some interesting aspects of this letter that was sent, and the news is questioning, hey, what if it was you? You know, it had to have been a key holder. You have a key. You've had this happen to you over and over. But the fact that she's bringing people into this, going to social media about it, and it happens over and over and over and over. I just think that's interesting.
People hear that you have a key, and they know that you've been victimized before. What would you say to the folks that say maybe you put that letter in there because you were one of the people that have the keys to do so?
I don't know that I even have any words for that, because as a mother of 2 black sons, I would never terrorize my children, and I don't know any mother personally that would trump up or fabricate something that severe that would affect her kids.
She's right. Not a lot of people would suspect a mother of doing that, to her own children. But this Münchausen Syndrome by proxy, I honestly think this is the condition, and I think that it's gone undernoticed in society. I think that's a real thing. I personally know a mother who would do this. I do. And I think there's a lot of mothers who do this without even realizing what they're doing, but they do it for the support and for the attention. It's interesting.
My son had slept for 2 weeks in my bed after we received that particular package, and he's 13 years old. That's the kind of terror that I, as a mother, and my son, as a black male 13-year-old in Spokane, never needs to experience. And the slightest implication that I would perpetrate terror toward my kids is at best offensive, but I don't know how that would be a conscionable statement that anybody could live with or believe.
Okay, so here she is whipping up the tears and applying guilt to the interviewer, saying, I can't believe anybody would even believe that. Very, very sincere looking, very, very, convincing. Probably not true.
And Rachel, despite these threats that started many years ago, you continue to go out and fight for equality and civil rights, and you're not going to be scared off from doing this.
No, I'm not. This is something that I've actually cared about since I was a young child, and I've been involved with social justice work since middle school, high school, college. It's part of my life work. So, some people might think that it actually, I've heard people say something about, oh, well, you get publicity from these hate crimes, and I think that's very sick as well, because that's not the kind of publicity anybody wants, is publicity of a negative and terrorizing scenario, especially death threats and photos of lynchings. And as a Black Studies professor, I know what these images mean.
See, and that's Münchausen by proxy, or Münchausen Syndrome 101, garnering the attention, garnering the support, making yourself feel better, getting that premise so that people will feel sorry for you. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's scientific diagnostics.
And take them very seriously given the history of racism in the United States.
Speaking of that, did your dad ever make it to Spokane in January for the ribbon cutting?
No, actually, he has unfortunately has bone cancer and was not able to get cleared for surgery, and so.
God, that sounds like a terrible break for you. I'm sure that he would have been very proud of you. Is that your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad.
This man right here is your father? Right there?
You have a question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was wondering if your dad really is an African American man.
That's a very. I mean, I don't know what you're implying.
Are you African American?
I don't understand the question of. I did tell you that yes, that's my dad, and he was unable to come in January.
Are your parents? Are they white?
And this whole thing of white guilt and white hatred of, you know, people who are white that hate their own race, this is becoming more prevalent in our society, you know, with affirmative action and the special benefits that people get. They get elevated to a point of being almost superior, or at least pampered in a way that whites don't get. And so I think that people that feel this way, like she does, feels that, you know, people of minority races or color have a certain position in society that she sought after. She wanted so badly that she became black. She was never black. She's a white person, but she became black because of white guilt, in my opinion. I think that's a lesser issue than the Münchausen Syndrome and the way that she's portraying all these abuses that terrorize her and her sons that are black, you know, and that, you know, they've had constant you know, altercations with racism in their lives because of their blackness or whatever, when she's white. And I think that's the main issue, is that she's hurting her children by feigning this, you know, terrorizing issue of racism in her life. I think that hurts her children. I don't think it helps them at all. It gives them a victim mentality to where they feel weaker because, you know, people are out to get them. And it's in all likelihood not even true. This is a bigger problem, I think, than what people give it credit for. Look up Münchausen Syndrome by proxy, and at the end of this here, click on the link or go to the description, and you can look at the lie detector technology that I've been working on and researching for about the last 5 years anyway, since my father died, and we've had a small conflict. Maybe it's not even small because I don't even talk to my family anymore, but a large conflict where everybody was accusing everybody of everything, and I cut out of the middle of it, and then they started focusing on me. And so, you know, all of the trumped up things of oh, sad this and sad that, I've always wanted something to be able to prove the story or the accusations one way or the other. This was my solution. I hope lie detection technology improves. Polygraph testers say they're 90% or greater in accuracy. I don't think that's enough. I think it needs to get up to like 99% or 100% for it to be reliable. They do use polygraphs in court, but you know, other people say they can beat a polygraph. I think if it was more accurate, and there's other technology out there, you know, that's getting more accurate, but I think if it was more accurate, it'd be more useful. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Check us out at xcannabis.com.